Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville and welcome to me answering your questions for the first quarter of 2022. Let's get into it. Okay, so these questions can run on a bit, so I'll try and keep my answers really short. What I should say before I go on, every couple of months I'll put a call up on the community tab of my YouTube channel asking for feedback. I try and run polls and have a discussion going over there as well, so I'd ask you all to every now and then check out what's going on over in the community tab of my YouTube channel. Okay, so with all that done, let's get into this. So John asks the question, hi Pete, really enjoyed the CEO Date for a Day series. Yep, thank you very much, John. I really enjoyed doing it too, it's good fun. I'm going to give myself a bit of a break, but I will be getting back into it. You asked the question on, what's my opinion on heritage revival brands? Now you've listed a couple here, Doxa, Zodiac, Yema, Smiths. First off, I can't really give an opinion on them. I haven't deep dived into those brands, so I'm not going to make a comment about those four. What I would say is there have been examples of a brand which has effectively died, but then been resuscitated and come back, perhaps even bigger and better than previously. I can probably think of no better example than Zenith, who had basically shut up shop, sold off all their product, ended up having to rely on, the famous story of an employee who had stolen stuff he was supposed to have disposed of. And yet, if you look at Zenith today, they've clearly transcended where they were. Are they purely a heritage revival brand? Look at the Defy and try and tell me that they're not forging a whole new path on their own. So I think it is that one brand has done it, says that anyone who is doing so in good faith can do it. On the other hand, there's a bunch of cynical recreations and resurrections out there, and I think you do have to look at each brand on a case-by-case basis. I fear the cynical resurrections, the undead brands, are probably outnumber the true revivals and 10 to 1. But I think it's not, I think you can bring a brand back from the dead. Okay, so Pay898, I hope I said that right, says, he knows I've got a big watch collection. What's my position on servicing? I have a two-speed answer to this question. For the vast majority of my collection, I have what we would say in the aircraft maintenance world, an on-condition maintenance policy. That is not a scheduled maintenance policy. Basically, I wait till something starts playing up and then I'll throw it on a time grapher, see if there's anything serious going on, and if I have to, I'll get it serviced. That's all I use my time grapher for, which is diagnostics to determine whether a service is required. I don't care about like minute per day accuracy. It's purely diagnostics. I do have another set of watches which have a special place, and they are divers that I actually use in the water, getting wet, getting to some kind of depth, beyond just mere splashing. They get serviced not because I worry about the movement, because I worry about the seals and gaskets and maintaining the water resistance. So there is a small subsection of my watches that do get serviced purely to make sure that they remain the integrity of the case, not the movements. Okay, so Scott C asks for my opinion on Sinn, and especially the 103 UTC Diapal. Okay, love Sinn, got one of their watches. I've got a 105 UTC, absolutely love it. I love their no holds barred, super tooly, kind of industrial aesthetic. It does really appeal to me. And Sinn do it so well. They really commit to that look. And so gotta love that. What do I think of the particular 103 UTC Diapal? Okay, this is one of those areas where what I can appreciate intellectually isn't necessarily what I would buy. I think it's a great looking watch. I love the dial, what they're doing with that. I'm never going to buy one because personally I have this crazy thing. I like chronographs, I like UTC watches, but I don't like chronographs that are UTCs. So I tend to keep them separate. So given that that particular watch is a GMT or UTC chronograph, not something I would personally buy, but I love the technology, I love the complications, I just keep mine separately, and I think it's a great watch. Okay, Stavros has asked 2 questions and they're both pretty long, but I've had a quick look at them and I'm going to quickly try and deal with it. So first off, the first question he asks is, do I think that this overall interest in watches is just hype and is it going to go away? And there's another question in here of, do I think that we will just keep seeing the same regurgitation or revitalization of old styles recurring moving forward? So I don't think that the newfound enthusiasm for watches is going to decrease greatly. I think that people that are coming into watches are going to stay interested in watches, and if there's some drop off, it won't be huge. There is another group of people that have come into our community that are not watch enthusiasts. They are, just name it. They are Rolex, Royal Oak, or 5711 enthusiasts. They'll go. At some point, they will move on because their desires, their interest is not anchored in watches, it's anchored in a very particular brand. And any change to the way the market works or what the hype beast is saying about those particular watches means that they'll just go, they'll vanish. So I think that interest in watches, those people who are truly interested in the larger industry and community and hobby, they're probably here for the long haul. People that are here for specific brands or models, they're frangible. They can break off at a moment's notice. Do I think we're going to continue to see this kind of recycling of the past? Absolutely. That's the way design works. You will see, I think I saw somewhere recently a podcast talking about fashion works on about a 30 to 40 year cycle, that every 30 to 40 years what was old becomes new again. That's going to happen. There will be evolutions as we go. The best example I can give would be, say, the Breitling top type that I did a hot take on a couple of days ago, where an old design has been in fact, 2 kind of older ideas have been incorporated for the first time in a very contemporary way now, creating something new. And I think that will continue forward. That as old things are brought forward, the best of them will be combined with something else. And even though there is still a thread from the past being carried on, something new will continue to develop. Okay, so Peter 2704 says that he was told by Tudor AD today that in the UK, Tudor is starting to restrict supply. What are my thoughts on that? Depends what you mean. Okay, the Black Bay line is only a very small part of what Tudor sells. The vast bulk of Tudor's sales are 1926s and Royals and stuff like that. Worldwide, that's mostly what they sell. The Black Bay is a pretty small component of that. The Black Bay is also like the pinnacle. They're the most expensive Tudors out there. Hence, again, they make up a pretty small amount of their actual sales. So today, if you walked into, certainly in my country, Australia, if you walked into a Tudor dealer and said you wanted to buy a 1926, they would fall over themselves to give you a discount to buy one. So are they restricting supply? No. Is it hard to get a Tudor Black Bay? Yes, it is. Often because they don't make a lot of them and there is an outsized level of interest in a small part of their collection today. So is it feasible that in the UK, Tudor is having to ration its Black Bays a little bit more carefully? Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on as they continue to ramp up production for the Black Bay line. But that's quite different to saying they're restricting supply. I think it's it's only a small part of their range. They don't make a huge number of them. They haven't quite caught up with the demand. That's it. So Gary Boyle asks me a question I'm not going to answer, but I'm going to spend a bit of time describing why I can't answer it. So Gary asks the question, how does the watch industry engage with the younger watch buying generation? And I think that the premise at the base of that is flawed. There's actually two flaws with that. There's no such thing as the watch industry, and there's no such thing as the current younger buying generation. The watch industry is actually a huge number, hundreds of brands. What you talk about, the current younger generation, is not really very well defined by their age, because yes, their age will matter, but also what country are they in and how much money have they got is probably a much bigger issue. So you really have to ask that question more in line of, how does Rolex engage with the younger middle class audience in China? How does Seiko engage with the younger working class of India? How does Omega deal with the younger middle classes or higher classes of the Middle East? Every one of those answers, each one of those questions will have wildly different answers. And I think a lot of the failure of the watch industry to really grab some of the younger audiences is to not realize that there are so many different cultures and so many different socioeconomic groups. But having said that, I think the watch industry has an infinitely better handle on it than we do. We English-speaking Western YouTubers tend to, and social media community members, take an incredibly Western view of this and consistently think that, if you can analyze how to sell to a teenager in America or England or Australia, you'll have an idea of what's going on in the world. And I think that could not be further from the truth. We must never, ever, ever forget more than half of Swiss watch exports go to people that don't look like us, speak a completely different language, have a fundamentally different cultural approach to watches, and we have no clue what's going on over there. Okay, so Jay Burgess and Matt KH have asked very similar questions around Rolex. I was shocked at how few questions there are around Rolex. I was very happy that there were only these two, and I'm going to deal with them both at the same time. So Jay asked, do I think that Rolex actually likes the current supply situation, or at least is indifferent to it, given that it would be very easy to fix? Mac KH, on the other hand, does ask, do I think that Rolex will do something about their distribution system? Jay, I completely agree with you. I think Rolex is perfectly happy with what's going on at the moment. I think that they will make some superficial noises to knock the edge off the criticism of their distribution system at the moment. They'll run a couple of show trials, get rid of the odd distributor here or there, but pretty much nothing really is going to change, which unfortunately for you, Mac, I don't think they'll do anything really significant. Okay, why am I so cynical? Rolex have never pretended to be a particularly enthusiast-friendly bunch. They've never really shown any interest in making enthusiasts happy. And the sole purpose of Rolex is to survive, is to be the last brand still operating as the universe hits heat death. And nothing that's going on here threatens the longevity, the long-term existence of Rolex. In fact, if anything, the more hype, the more frustration, the more anger there is, the more likely the brand is to survive in the long term. Will there be problems in the short term? Yeah, they will. Rolex doesn't care. Rolex's reason for being is, will we be still here as the last embers of the sun flicker into nothingness? And that's most likely to happen as long as there's these kind of hype around their brand, and they will do nothing to damage that. Hi, Edit Sweet Pete here, just jumping in to say, you know what, I'm going to call this just a little bit early. The Q&A session was running a bit long, going to cut it in half, do the last couple of questions as another part. So, I've been Pete McConville, this has been Not So Obvious Watches. This has also been part one of my Q&A for quarter one of 2022. I'll see you later, bye.